Welcome, everyone. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of influence and power. Our focus will be on a key principle: get others to play with the cards you deal. We'll explore how to control options and leverage Law 31 to shape outcomes. Over the next few slides, I'll share strategies and insights to help you master this approach. So let's get started. The best deceptions are often the ones that make the other person feel like they're in control. They believe they have choices, but in reality, they're just puppets pulling the strings. It's about giving people options that, no matter what they choose, end up serving your purpose. You want them to feel like they're making a decision, but in fact, they're just moving along the path you've set out. This often involves forcing them to pick between the lesser of two evils. Both options are actually beneficial to you. It's a subtle but powerful way to manipulate, because it keeps your target engaged and feeling empowered while you maintain the real control. This ties into the overall theme of how influence works, not through direct command, but through carefully crafted choices that steer the outcome in your favor. It's about understanding human nature and how to shape perceptions so people feel they're making free decisions when they're actually following your design. Let's talk about the horns of a dilemma. Imagine a master strategist who carefully stacks the deck. They present you with two options, A and B now. You might think that your choice really matters, that you're making a free decision. But in reality, both options are designed to lead to the strategist's victory. It's a classic heads I win, tails you lose situation. When someone imposes their will directly, it often sparks resentment because it feels like control is being taken away from us. But if they offer us a choice, even if the outcome is predetermined, it creates a sense of freedom. It's a subtle but powerful way to influence. And this brings us to the idea of the illusion of freedom. It's important to recognize how these tactics can manipulate perceptions. By giving us the illusion that we're in control, the strategist maintains power while we feel we're making our own decisions. This ties into the overall theme of understanding influence and how perception can be shaped to serve someone else's agenda. So here, where it gets really interesting, Ivan the Terrible essentially gave the Russian people a stark choice. On one hand, he could stay away, allowing Russia to fall into chaos and ruin. That's what we'll call option A, or, on the other hand, he could return as an absolute autocrat, holding unlimited power, what we'll call option B. Now, naturally, the people were terrified of option A. They feared chaos and instability. So under pressure, they chose option B, of course. It's important to remember that this wasn't really a free choice, more like a situation where fear dictated their decision. And with this choice, Ivan was able to manipulate the situation. He controlled the options to seize total power, consolidating his authority as the ruler of Russia. But here's the twist. Ivan soon realized that his power was not absolute. The boyars, the noble class, held significant influence and limited his authority. Frustrated and feeling constrained, Ivan eventually abdicated the throne and left Moscow. This act of leaving the throne threw the country into chaos, showing that even a ruler like Ivan, despite his power, was ultimately limited by the nobility and the complex political landscape of Russia at that time. So this slide highlights how Ivan's tactics and the fear-driven decisions of the people allowed him to seize power, but also how internal limitations and noble resistance eventually undermined his reign. So in this slide, I want to highlight how Kissinger often presented President Nixon with three policy choices. Now, option 1 was usually too mild, meaning it didn't go far enough or wasn't aggressive enough. Option 3, on the other hand, was too dangerous, perhaps risky or extreme. And then there was option 2, which was exactly what Kissinger wanted Nixon to pick. Nixon thought he was making a command decision, choosing between these options. But in reality, Kissinger had already framed the choices in a way that guided Nixon toward his preferred outcome. This is a perfect example of how Kissinger mastered the art of the three options, presenting a set of choices that subtly steer decision-makers toward a specific policy. It's a key part of understanding his strategic approach as Secretary of State, always shaping the options to influence the final decision. Let's talk about some of the keys to power and influence. First, raising the price of resistance. This means making it more painful or costly for someone to say no. When the negative consequences of resisting become too high, the option to agree starts to look much more appealing, almost like relief. Next, we have shrinking options. This is about putting your opponent in a situation where they feel they need to act immediately, and the only logical choice left is the one you want them to make. By limiting their choices, you steer them toward your desired outcome more easily. And then there's forcing the hand. Here, you offer a choice, but the outcome is rigged, similar to a magician forcing a card. The person focuses on choosing, but the real trick is in how the options are set up so that no matter what they pick, the result benefits you. Finally, the color of the stone, a concept that ties everything together. It reminds us that perception is key. The way you frame your influence, much like the color or the shape of a stone, can make your message more compelling and harder to resist. These keys, when used wisely, help us shape decisions more effectively, reinforcing the overall theme of mastering influence. Now, let's talk about the concept of reversal, which I like to think of as the open field. When you first engage in a negotiation or start a relationship, it's crucial to give your counterpart the freedom to act naturally. This is where understanding their true tendencies comes into play. By not constraining their options right away, you allow them to reveal what they really want, how they make decisions, and what motivates them. When we control too many options early on, we limit the data we gather about their true desires. It's like trying to read a map while someone else is constantly blocking your view. Sometimes, you need to step back, let go of the immediate urge to control, and observe. This approach helps you gather honest information, which is essential for making smarter decisions later. And the key takeaway here is knowing when to let go, when to step back and let things unfold naturally. This strategy gives you a clearer picture of what your opponent truly wants and needs, making your overall negotiation much more effective. Now, let's take a moment to acknowledge the sources behind the visuals we've seen today. First, we have an image from vectorstock.com illustrating manipulation, specifically, a puppet on strings, highlighting how control and influence can be exerted over others. Next, from isticphoto.com, there's a picture of a forked path in a lush green forest, symbolizing decision-making and the choices we face when navigating complex situations. Moving on, from Chapman.edu, we see an image that ties into strategic thinking and diplomacy, reminding us of the importance of careful planning and communication. The fourth image, sourced from firstartgallery.com, captures the essence of decision-making in high-stakes environments. Think of it as a metaphor for weighing options and the weight of choices. Finally, from isticphoto.com again, there's a striking image of a hand holding a royal flush, which represents the concept of risk, luck, and the idea of holding a winning hand, paralleling how strategic moves can sometimes lead to success or failure. Altogether, these images reinforce the core themes we've discussed: influence, decision-making, strategy, and the importance of understanding the broader context. They serve as visual anchors that deepen our grasp of the complex dynamics at play.